Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. Oh, Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, in giving to all men that we receive, and in dying that we're born to eternal life. Oh, Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace.
Good night, everyone, and welcome to all those who are looking at us tonight, those who are joining us live on television tonight, and also those who are joining us live on our Facebook page. Make me a channel of your peace. That's how we begin with that prayer tonight as we celebrate, we continue to celebrate these 40 days of action. Action about what? About what, friends? Non-violence begins with me. Yes, that's our theme, that's our topic that we are looking at here on these television broadcasts these nights, every Tuesday night. As you know, we are journeying with the non-violence movement. And our theme is non-violence begins with me. But there are several aspects of nonviolence that we can look at over the next few weeks. And it just so happens that this week we're looking at nonviolence and the workplace. That's a topic we were discussing last week for those of you who were with us. Those who are here for the first tonight, welcome as we continue on this series. And as you watch tonight, this is an interactive show. We want you to be part of the show with us. We want to invite you who are at home to feel free to call in, to feel free to be part of this show, because we want to hear your opinions, your questions, your points, anything that, clarifications maybe, that you have on this topic of nonviolence and the workplace. So as we go along the show tonight, you will see the number come up on your screen, and please, we really welcome your call tonight with us. And so to begin, I would like to introduce you at home again to our presenter this evening, who is returning for a second week with us. Her name is Ms. Dianne Job, and she has been presenting to us on this topic of nonviolence in the workplace. She comes out of the Franciscan Institute. She's a member of that team with Sister Julie Peters, and she is a capable member of that team. She was here last week, not so everyone, and we had an excellent presentation. And so we welcome you, Dianne, and we are looking forward, we're excited about what you will present to us tonight. I hand you over to Dianne. And we have an extra guest joining us. Good night, Sharon. Come right in. And if you see one or two extra chairs here tonight, it's because we really want to leave space for you. If you would like to come and join us next week on the show. We have seats. We don't want the place to look like it's full and there's no room. We have room for you. So if you want to come and be part of the studio audience, send us a little message on Facebook or on our website, and we can certainly have you come and join us. Over to Dianne.
Thank you, Kyle. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's wonderful being here again. And I'll give you a little reminder, those of you who are here and those who are joining us for the first time, I'll catch you up as well. So let's jump in. We ended last week talking about we committed to more caring. That's where we're going to make the intervention into nonviolence, with more caring. So I want you to just take a deep breath and reflect on some of these images, because we are going to be reflecting together over the next 20-30 minutes. All right, so that was our little reflection as we begin. We did explore the definition of violence. All right, violence is any physical, structural, spiritual behavior, attitude, or policy or condition that diminishes. I included a new word here. Are you recognizing it? Dehumanizes. I realize that was, missing. Dominates or destroys ourselves or others. And we did explore, I think I need to get this held right. We did explore nonviolence in the workplace. And we spoke about violence, one employee to the other, all right? Because there's employee-to-employee violence. There's also employer-to-employee violence. And you have an idea of what that can be. And we went straight into talking about the employee tends to transmit that to customers. So the business place actually feels the violence that started off a little higher up. And then employee to employer, and the employer tends to feel that in his pocket. All right, so we did have that discussion. And additionally, people who are coming into the workplace, suppliers, customers themselves, who are being violent to employees. So we did cover that, and you have an idea of what that looks and feels like, so we can go forward. I'd like us to look, my dear, this is a little snappy. All right, we spoke about the definition of nonviolence. All right, so we're focusing a lot of today's session on nonviolence. And I guess we're allowed to step away from that when you call from at home. You might have an experience of violence in the workplace that you'd like to, like us to help you work through. Please feel free to call, and I'll give it my best shot. All right, nonviolence is a creative power. Nonviolence is a creative force for justice and well-being. And it uses neither passivity nor violence. And this is what we are going to explore together today. Alice Walker's statement gave us more to think about as well. To war is to admit you possess no resources within yourself to bring to bear on a situation. All right, or on your feet, as Alice Walker says. All right, we're going to look, bearing all of this in mind, we are jumping into today's activity and we'd look at a video together.
There are people all over the world who wake up every day in immense fear. There are people all over the world who wake up every day in immense fear. People who face the daily risk of being killed or of losing their family and loved ones. People who live just to survive another day. In my home country of El Salvador, this is how I used to live.
And I grew up during El Salvador's Civil War.
My name is Idealist, and I grew up during El Salvador's Civil War, when the fear of violence restricted every single aspect of our lives. At times, we were confined to our homes, unable to attend school, and every day brought a new uncertainty of what could happen. My family experienced violence firsthand when my brother was kidnapped, and we remained for a whole year uncertain if we would ever see him again. Thankfully, my brother was released, and the Civil War came to an end, but the violence and conflict persevered. Staggering gang-related violence and the highest murder rate per capita make El Salvador one of the most dangerous places in the world. Currently, El Salvador is mapped out by 2 rival gangs. If you live in one area controlled by one gang, you cannot physically access another area controlled by the rival gang for fear of being killed, even if these 2 areas are only a couple of streets away. And when gang leaders are imprisoned, they continue to organize the most violent crimes from within the prisons. So when young men enter these prisons, their violent fates become cemented. And I recently understood this when I visited one of El Salvador's high-security prisons, and I learned that the structure of violence creates an endless cycle that traps and entrenches at-risk youth. I felt completely powerless that I could ever break this cycle and that I could ever make a difference. But I knew in that moment that my purpose was to focus on the youth before they embarked in that path. In 2011, I started a company called Sequence, which makes handcrafted jewelry and accessories. At Sequence, our sole mission is to disrupt the cycle of violence by employing young men who are at risk of joining the gangs of El Salvador. We started our first workshop with 3 young men, and now we effectively employ and empower over 50. As Sequence has grown, we've needed to create some innovative business solutions to train, hire, and support the young men who live and work in rival gang territories. Technologies like Skype and the cloud have been the only way our 2 workshops have been able to meet and communicate with each other, even though they're only 10 minutes apart. I believe this business model transcends the borders of El Salvador and can be applied in places around the world that are facing the same issues. When you combine your human sense of power, you can achieve so much more than you could ever dreamed of. And for the men that work with me, technology has empowered them to achieve so much more than they had ever dreamed of. All of us gathered here come from different communities that face serious issues of fear and violence. But equally, all of us here have the power and potential to create great impact in overcoming those fears. All of you have the business tools to engineer lasting change. It's not about altering your lifestyle or abandoning your career. It's about stepping into your awareness of what your current business can do to address worldwide issues. Yes, these problems are huge, but when you know your potential and tap into your purpose, you can begin to take ownership of the impact you want to have and discover exactly how to do it. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Of the impact that you want to have. So I thought this was a wonderful way of having people realize no matter what the situation before you, there is a way through it. You remember the fiery furnace and the 3 men that were in there? No, you're not remembering 3 men because there were 4. All right, so we are going to get to this 4th man. There is another way. There is another possibility. Tap into your purpose. I'm thinking of something that Mohandas Gandhi had said. We are constantly being astonished at the amazing discoveries in the field of violence. He referred to violence as a field. But I maintain, Gandhi said, that far more undreamt of and seeming impossible discoveries will be made in the field of nonviolence. So tonight I really want you, though we are in the workplace, I want you to see what situations you thought of that may have been insurmountable, but there is a way through that. All right. I heard of an airline that wanted to bring more caring to bear, and what they are doing now is, if you're courteous, you know, when you come up to the counter, you stand the chance. Someone is joining us. Wonderful. So there are 2 more chairs for those who would love to join us. All right, remember to drop Kyle a note next week if you want to be filling in our chairs. Welcome. So we were saying there's an airline that says, if you come up to a counter and you're really courteous in your engagement to the staff, you stand to win an upgrade or an express check-in or something. So there are all sorts of creative ways of bringing more caring into the workplace. We saw Ariella creating a workplace that is about more caring and attacking at the core violence. There's a conference that's about to happen as we speak in Trinidad, and they are focused on provoking critical thinking in all leaders and arousing creativity and compelling people to action by educating and engaging leaders in discussions intrinsic to business and innovation and competitiveness. This is the same sort of energy that is being tapped into, all right? And we can tap into this energy to help us realize our purpose and at the same time address nonviolence in the workplace. Can you think of anything creative that you've seen done in the workplace? Can be outside as well, but that does address violence. Anyone? And callers, you two are invited. And whilst you're thinking about it, I'll share something that I experienced, or I'm in the middle of. The men who come to clean just the curbway, they are actually taking things and dumping on the lawn just outside the wall there. Nowhere else. I drive through the neighborhood, nowhere else. Just on my and I was waiting for them, and one morning I was planning to run out and say to them, please, probably shout at them. And I went and I examined what they're actually dumping on the lawn, and I realized, it's a little fertile. So I'm thinking of a way of dealing with the situation. It's not resolved yet, but I'm getting closer to it. And I'll tell you how I was able to get a little closer to that as well. I'll teach you a technique tonight. But I'd love to hear of probably something that, you may be experiencing that you'd love to share with us?
I'll share something that somebody expressed yesterday. He said his employees were stressed with the traffic coming into work on a morning and that sort of thing. And he allowed them to come in at their own time. So instead of 8, maybe you wanted to come in for 10, and you just work your hours accordingly. And he said productivity increased because he was allowing people a choice, giving them a choice, right? And also, if you know your wife is sick or your child is sick,
All right. Can we come right back to it? I really want to explore that further because
Okay,
the research shows exactly that. That is exactly what happens. Hold on to the mic because I'd love you to continue. We have a caller. Welcome.
Hello, good night. Hello, good night. Hello, good night.
We're not hearing you, caller.
Good night.
All right, so there might be something technical. I really want to address what you're sharing with us. Absolutely. The research shows that there is an increase in productivity. Of course, there needs to be responsibility and honesty on the part of workers as well, and even more responsibilities taken by the supervisors. But absolutely, absolutely, the research is very much in line with what you're saying.
and he also said, like, if an employee had a wife who was ill or a child who was ill, he would tell them, go home, take the day, see about your business, and then come back. And he says, it creates an environment where people want to work. It doesn't detract from the work at all.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. When they come back to work after tending to that sick wife or whomever, they tend to really put so much more back into the workplace. Yes, caller, welcome.
Hello, good night.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, we're hearing you.
Okay, I want to make a comment on a workplace issue of prevention of violence and anger control. Now, a customer comes in and he asks, it's like a restaurant. He asks the person who is serving, well, this is what I want, that is what I want. And the customer will ask about twice. Now, the server will more or less try to be less patient and want to be more arrogant in the sense of, I didn't hear you, but it's in the way they respond to it. Now, when you respond to that to like a customer, remember a customer comes in, when they choose to come in, you are working in a place, a choice where you have to be there every day. A customer could abuse you physically, mentally, or any other case, and they don't need to come back in your business. So you who is serving have to realize that the anger that the society is in on a daily basis, you have to minimize that when you are serving customers, because that anger brings the first response to violence. And when that happens, that is when after the fact you will realize that if I had more patience, or I hadn't done something in the way that I have done it, there mightn't be any hospital case or injury or probably court matter or maybe death sometimes. So this is a response because of the program itself carries the prevention and the methods of dealing with society on a whole to prevent violence.
Wonderful, wonderful comments. I would love to address it directly. Thank you very much, caller. There are 3 responses to violence. Well, then they're numbers, but we've categorized them as 3 responses to violence. You can ignore the violence. So there's this customer in front of you and is being, really very angry, and you can just ignore him. Or you find people turning their backs. Or it's like putting your hands over your eyes and your ears. All right, you can do that. Or you can accommodate it. You can accommodate the violence. So you can continue to engage this person that is angry. And you know that doesn't get anywhere. And there's yet another response to violence, and I'll find it in my note because there's a particular piece that I want to read that's associated with that, where you can extend the two hands of violence. And there's an author, Barbara Deming, all right, who did write about extending the two hands of violence. And with one hand, we say to the oppressor or to the unjust system, stop. Stop what you're doing. I refuse to honor the role that you are choosing to play. I refuse to obey you. I refuse to cooperate with your demands. I refuse to build the walls and the bombs. I refuse to pay for the guns. With this hand, I will even interfere with the wrong that you are doing. I want to disrupt the easy pattern of your life. All right? So generally, when you have both hands up there, it's really attempting to fight violence with violence. But you just have one up, and then there's another raised hand. All right? With the other hand at the same time, the accommodation hand, so the accommodation stance is a stance like this. Oh, stop it. All right? And those of you at home can probably just try the accommodation stance. So we extend, as opposed to two hands for accommodation, one hand for accommodation. And I'll hook it back up to the caller, so bear with me. All right, so we're saying with this raised outstretched hand, with this hand, I would not let you go and cast you out of the human race. I have faith that you can make a better choice than you're making now. I am here when you're ready. Like it or not, we are part of one another. So the two hands of violence, it's more or less like this. And actually, it's the same position I get into when I am really thinking of another way than probably meeting the violence with the violence, or the angry person coming up to the counter and you are responding angrily. You know, it's fighting. It's a lot of effort. There is yet another way. So we can spend time to find that other way. We have another caller? Yes, welcome. We lost that caller. So to continue with... Hello. Good evening.
Hello?
Yes, good evening. I'm hearing you.
Good evening. You hear me?
Yes. Let's hear your question or comment this evening.
Good evening. I just turned on the TV and I see a program and I love, what I'm hearing. And, I think it has many ways in keeping away crime or either turning away from crime. Because, sometimes you go out there as, and you meet somebody, you go to purchase something, or you go in a restaurant, or you go and you meet somebody, and they have so much attitude. And you now tired and you want to just relax, maybe to eat something or drink something, but they have so much attitude. But what you will have to do now, you just have to humble yourself, stay quiet, and because if you try to get on like them, well, they will have the fight and the violence and all that. What?
Yes.
But I normally just walk away.
All right.
I believe in walking away.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kola.
And
thanks for keeping it short.
Walk away. Yeah, the song Kenny was just saying, it take a man. The song Kenny was just saying, it take a man to walk away from a fight. From trouble.
Yes.
From trouble.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to repeat what that caller just said, it takes a man to walk away from a fight. We need to be more conscious of ourselves. Somebody is coming and making a request at a counter and is coming with a lot of anger and rage. The first thing you do is breathe. All right? That allows you to get into that posture. I'm not asking you to put your hands up actually physically like this, but I want you to try the posture out a lot at home so you can actually practice it. All right? And you breathe. First you breathe. And you know, probably connect with the person, make some eye contact. Because very, very often, someone coming up to you with rage, often you don't look at them. All right, so breathe and make some eye contact. And, you know, a greeting. Good morning, sir. Yes, how many pieces of chicken would you have today? Sometimes. We have someone in the audience.
I thought that the video that we saw was quite an interesting one, the situation in El Salvador. In fact, we have quite a significant degree of similarity in our situations here, where there's a turf war and so on. Now, I remember about 4 or 5 decades ago, we had serious situations with violence, particularly over the carnival period. And this was resolved through finding a common ground for the... You're going to take the call? Or?
All right, one moment, please. We'll come back to that common ground. Caller, welcome.
Hello, good night.
Good evening.
I'm enjoying the program.
Thank you.
What about a non-violence village? Remember we had the Divine Mercy Village last year?
Yes.
All right. And what about, you know, we can have this huge non-violent village? You know, we had that creative sister that handled that Mercy Village last year, coming together with Living Water or Archdiocese. Maybe an interfaith something, you know, something very huge.
Great. Thank you very much, Kola.
Something very creative.
Yes.
Last year, the Mercy Village ended with a beautiful concert, you know, and probably something creative, a non-violent village, you know.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Absolutely. All right. I appreciate that, Kola.
Yes, I was making the point that we did solve the problem to some extent through the steel band movement, where there was a lot of common ground, and then companies started sponsoring the steel bands and so on. So I felt that the people who were involved in all of this violence over the carnival period in particular found themselves in a little more responsible position. In other words, they were accounting to somebody for something. So I think the solution now, notwithstanding the fact that violence now is coming with a completely new face. I mean, it's still a turf war, but there is an underlying issue, which of course we know of, which is the drugs and so on. But I still feel that the approach could well be that we find some commonality among the troops and sort of work on that, where there could be some sort of harmonious development of whatever initiative that we take. So that perhaps is something that needs to be explored. I don't have the El Salvador people seem to have some form of response to the whole thing. I don't know if that will work for Trinidad and Tobago, but it might be something to generate a thought.
Absolutely, absolutely. I should add, Ariella is coming to Trinidad in about a month's time, so probably you'd have the opportunity to meet her as well. Ariella, the lady who started the company. Yes, yes, absolutely. But yeah, there are creative things unthought of that can be brought to bear. And together we
Dianne,
can get to them.
I've worked in call centres for many years, and I find the most violent people are people who phone in call centres, because at the other end of the phone, they're miles away or they're quite a distance away. Because you're not facing them, they can be angry, and you know, they're not looking at you, so they can be really vicious. And what I found and what I was trained to do is the way you actually talk back to them. If you stay calm and just talk calmly to them, it seems that they quieten down. So I find it may be interesting to go through how people actually deal with telephone calls as well with customers, rather than face-to-face as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And for call center training, it's done, but somehow or the other, we tend not to see the response by the people who actually receive the calls, to truly listen to the caller, to truly listen to them, as opposed to talk at them and be anxious to return to your script. Is that all, ma'am? Was it, you know, you just called and said that you were very angry about something, and you may have come to some sort of resolution, and it's as if, no, the next issue is, would that be all today? When it's a highly inappropriate response, you're not engaged with the person on the line if you'd go directly from your call back to your script, that type of thing. So be a little more present for the person on the other end of the line, and you'd be able to come down. We have another caller. Welcome.
Good evening to you.
Good
Can you hear
evening,
me?
sir.
Yeah, one of the ways I have disarmed people when I'm the customer, and I find they're being, you know, kind of rough or anything like that, I just say to them, excuse me, but I'm sorry that I offended you. And that kind of gets them, you know, you know, it takes the air out of the balloon. Mm-hmm. Just by me saying, I'm sorry I offended you. And they seem to calm down and realize that something went wrong somewhere.
Well done. Thank you, sir. Do you know what that does? It brings them present. It brings them into the present moment. You know, all the garbage that they might have brought into the store or wherever is suddenly, you know, shaken off. They are in the present moment, and they can, even if it's for 3 split seconds, at least deal with you, face you. All right? Then you give them eye contact, you engage with them, and you might be able to go to another position than you previously, you know, you otherwise would have. Great, thank you very much. All right. So I want to get back to the 2 hands of nonviolence. I really want you to try it. I really want you to, when you go home, or when we're off air, when you think of a situation, a violent situation that's done towards you, I really want you to get into the posture, all right, and recognize that you're saying, stop on one hand, I'm not going to participate with what you're doing, but I'm open and I'm treating you as a human being for us to be able to engage. And there's wonderful things in that space that you can get to. Yes? So I had mentioned to you earlier that, all right, you would love to.
I guess most of us love to receive, you know, and customers, especially irate customers when they come in, and time is the essence. You know, most companies now are introducing like the coffee machines or water. That's a way of saying, please, would you like to have some coffee? Whilst, you know, and I think that helps to a certain extent. To at least to calm them for a while.
You meet them as a human being. Yeah, and at the core, it's very easy to be able to appreciate that. So really wonderful. I would love to, I want to do something together. I want us to read something together. Yes? It helps get into that space of, it helps get into that space where you know, the fourth person who is in the fiery furnace, or, you know, you can be as creative as Ariel and bring to bear a whole work environment that can have impact on violence. All right? And we will do an exercise. I would say the Lord gives, and you'd read a particular verse in the Bible that, all right, that addresses this issue. All right, so we'd look at rest, strength, peace, hope, wisdom, and guidance. And I'll tell you why these were chosen to address nonviolence in the workplace and beyond. It's important to come to that place of rest. You heard me speak about breathe at the outset. Strength, you heard me refer to that when the caller said it takes a man to walk away from violence. Peace, and that's what we're dealing with, hope, wisdom, and guidance. All right, so the Lord gives rest.
Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest.
The Lord gives strength.
But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint.
The Lord gives peace.
You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you.
The Lord gives hope.
May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit.
The Lord gives wisdom.
If any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you.
The Lord gives guidance.
I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you.
All right. And this brings me to a story that Sister Julie told you very much earlier in these talks. For those of you who do not know the story of St. Francis and the wolf, yeah, she did tell the story. It's about a wolf that was giving a very hard time to a town, eating the livestock and eating the people as well. And St. Francis was able to negotiate with the wolf. And they came to a wonderful place where the wolf became a special wolf, their special wolf. And he lived in harmony with the people for 2 years before he died. The impossible can become possible. There's strength, there's hope, there's wisdom, there's guidance for that. We can start on that path. I'm standing here remembering a situation where the owner of a business was thinking that his sales, were being sabotaged by his workers. And we had a little back and forth with the staff and with him, and I promised him many hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales. And so he said he'd do certain things, and the staff would do certain things. And we were approaching the figure because he had, was keeping his side of the bargain. And suddenly he didn't. When we were getting pretty close to the figure, he probably thought, oh no, they will benefit too much or whatever. All right, so his wolf started to run wild in the workplace. And you can imagine the devastation that happened after, the staff had come pretty close to that figure. I tell the story to say all sorts of things happen in the workplace. All sorts of things. And our wolves can run wild as well. But our wolves can be tamed. Yeah, and we can do that together. Giving you the opportunity to ask your question.
I was hoping that we would touch a bit on inter-employee conflict. I don't think we have covered that
Sufficiently.
yet. Yes, because that is a big problem that several companies have to deal with. And what I think the root of most times the root of the problem is that despite the fact that we are a very small country, the social programming from territory to territory is very different. Things that are acceptable, things that are wrong for one set of people is wrong, it's just right. I mean, it's fine with others. And that tends to cause conflict. That tends to cause major issues which can escalate into serious and sometimes unmanageable issues between employees. I don't know if we can deal with a little bit of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's important that employers establish the tone, what they require in their workplace from the word go. Sometimes employees are brought in and they just thrown to the wolves, to use that wolf again. They just, it's so important to say, this is what we require. And it's important to have documented a code of ethics. That is really very necessary. It's also important to train the supervisors up to really observe and keep employees, help employees observe the required code. And when they, at times as human beings would, stray away from the code, be reminded of the code, and then receive consequences when they do violate it. What I want to ask you, though, is I'd love an example of any violation that you might have in mind, because I'm speaking in broad terms and it's a little too academic. I'd love to address something that you might have in mind.
People being who they are judgmental. And when you are seeing someone around you who is behaving in a manner that you don't approve of, that could become a serious problem. It could be, sometimes people play music in your own cubicles, sometimes they speak loudly, and this is fine at home by them.
But
that is fine, but it's not fine by the person next to you.
Absolutely.
And like I said, it may not be as simple as that. Sometimes it becomes a lot more complex than that, but certainly, I think the social programming, or the difference therein, is the root cause could be the root cause of the issue.
Absolutely. And again, if an employer says this is inappropriate behavior, if an employer says this is inappropriate behavior, chances are the person would respond to it. Let's assume they do not respond. The employer comes again. After having given a warning, they write to the employee. All right, and there's a formula that is used to do that. You've been observed doing, you've been spoken to on so date, and if you do not, so you get a warning letter that documents exactly what is done and what is not required. There are some workplaces where it actually works.
The perpetrator could be your best employee, huh?
Absolutely.
So that's another.
That is on one hand. On the other hand is often a person might have a problem why they might be acting out, and you as a responsible employer with a caring workplace, it's important to help them address that. There are employee assistance programs as well. Sometimes just giving an extra ear, listening to the employee. So setting the tone, disciplining, and consequences does exist on one hand, and on the other hand, there is meeting and treating with the employee to ensure that this type of thing does not escalate. Yep. Great. I thank you very much for this question. It really does round off very nicely. It rounds off very nicely what what we've been talking about. So whether you are employee or employer or customer or some other stakeholder in the workplace, I say to you, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Thank you very much.
So just before we go, before you go, Dianne, we have a call on the line now. So we'll take our last caller for the evening.
The caller is gone.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Dianne again.
Thank you. Probably come back here.
Okay. So we want to thank our sister, Dianne Job, for doing an amazing job on nonviolence in the workplace. Not so? An amazing job. Thank you very much. Very thorough. And I'm sure you at home found it very helpful, very instructive. And I would underline, I suppose, those two hands of nonviolence. That, yes, you know, just practicing the two hands of nonviolence and thinking about it mentally. How can you extend a hand that is more human and welcoming and engaging, and also extend a hand that says no to injustice and to violence. So we are very grateful for this. Friends, brothers, sisters, those at home looking, those on Facebook, we thank you for watching and for joining us for these 2 weeks as we make this journey with non-violence. And this theme of non-violence begins with me. And we want to thank the callers especially because you really enlivened our program this evening. And that gave us a sense that what we're doing here is so important to those who are at home watching. And as we continue to make this journey of non-violence, there's so much going on that we want to take the opportunity to keep you informed. So let's just run through a few things, because some of you are looking at the program and you may be hearing of this movement and these 40 days of action for the first time. Or you're looking and maybe you don't have access to all that we're doing. So I want to share some of that with you. We have these programs on a Tuesday evening, Tuesday nights, live on television, and then will be rebroadcasted later on different stations and so during our 40 days of action. And you can join us here at 8 p.m. live. Or as we said, we have 1 or 2 seats still. If you would like, just send us a message if you're interested in being in our audience, and we would get in contact with you. Then we are, in these 40 days of action, we have a major aspect of this non-violence movement that is coming up that we want to tell you about. We cannot talk about non-violence, we cannot activate ourselves as a non-violent movement and deal with the violence in our country without being present and caring for those who have experienced violence in our society and in our communities. And we all know that there are many of us who have suffered at the hands of violence in our communities. So we want to tell you about this very special memorial service, a candlelight memorial service that will be coming up, that we are sponsoring and organizing as the Movement for Nonviolence in Trinidad and Tobago. That is on the 24th of March, Friday, 24th of March. Write the date down, block it on your calendar. If you are concerned about this country, You are concerned about all that you are seeing happening in the hallways of our communities, and you want to find a way to get involved in active nonviolence. We're inviting you to join one of the communities to come out to one of the places. We will be sending a whole list in the newspaper. Look out for it in all of the daily papers. We will be putting it on our website, nonviolencett.org. Also on our Facebook page. We will be putting all of the communities where there will be gatherings on the 24th of March with candlelight and diyas and any form of lighting that we can do to be able to remember the victims of violence. So we're inviting you to come out to one of those locations. I can tell you that already several communities are organizing and mobilizing. We have already heard that from some of these communities. I just want to give you some of them. We have Tobago. There will be 2 candlelight memorial gatherings in Tobago for those who've been affected by violence. We have Arima. There's going to be an organized candlelight memorial there. Sawa has already responded saying that they are organizing. We have a group in St. Anne's that is organizing at the Scouts location. I know that one personally. And then we have the Betham. There's going to be an organized candlelight memorial in the Betham, and it's organized for that same night. And then we know of one that is going to be organized in La Brea. And then we have Belmont. The Belmont community is also organizing. All of these groups are NGOs, religious bodies of different backgrounds, Hindu faith, the Baha'is, the Catholics, Anglicans and Catholics are coming together in Belmont to hold the service. Or you might be just a community activation group, some kind of NGO group in your community, or you might just be a concerned citizen in your community and you want to organize for people to come out together and to remember and to honor those who have fallen in the community and to stand with families who have gone through violence. You can send us a message and let us know, please, that you want to organize. We will help you with a format. We're giving you ideas for the program, so you can send us that on Facebook, on our webpage, or you can send us it by email, and we will be happy to let people know that your group is organizing or your community is organizing to meet on that night. Last but not least, remember we have a peace rally coming up. A peace rally on Easter Monday. When she talked about the village, I thought of that right away. We have a peace rally on Easter Monday, and it is going to start around 1 p.m. in the afternoon at the Queen's Park, Savannah. We're having a massive cultural and spiritual performances. We're going to have shows. We're going to have booths. We're going to have materials handed out for nonviolence. Come and join us at Queen's Park, Savannah on Easter Monday. Bring your families, picnics. We're going to have steel band, and it's all for peace. And come, walk with your banners for peace. We'll tell you more next week about this. As we close, our brother Matthew is going to lead us in our peace song, our little anthem. And you at home can sing it with us. Let there be peace on earth. Good night, and we'll see you back here next week.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin.